But Shimpakus, what started me with Shimpakus is, I don't know if you've experienced junipers, prostrata, procumbens, and the common junipers. I started to play with them, and that's what we first had, mainly of, many of. We'd have tons of procumbens, prostrata, you do classes with them, and so on. But after a while, you get a branch that just dies, and another branch that just dies. It's like, why are these branches dying on me? I water it, I feed it, I look after it, and it got pretty frustrating. The foliage is pretty prickly as well. If you ever get stuck into them, they can be a bit prickly, but that's not a big issue. But my biggest issue was branches kept dying, and we had big old trees. We had a convention with the club in 2007. We had what's his name? Marco. Remember, you guys know Marco from Italy, Marco Invernizzi. Yeah, we had Michael Persiano as well. There's some old name, 2007. Got in these big junipers, fantastic. They did them up, and then the same thing happened to them. Branches just kept dying off. Anyway, so got frustrated with those. And then Shimpaku Junipers became one of those kind of accidents for me. It's like, oh, what's this? What's this species of juniper? You know, back 15 or so years ago, 20 years, maybe 15, 20 years ago, I just found them and I started to go, wow, this foliage is fantastic. It's really soft and compact. And I was lucky enough to get two nursery kind of material, largish ones. I got lucky with those, and no dieback. There's no branches dying off. It was just healthy and growing, and grows massive long shoots in one season. It's like, this is awesome. And then I go, okay, so how am I going to get more of these? Go and look around nurseries. Very hard to find back then, Shimpaku junipers. Very hard. You might find little seedlings like this, cuttings, you know, and what are you going to do with those growing for ages? So I started to take my big two pieces of stock, and you get long whips, and I started to air layer them. And I just tried it. I tried air layering at different times of the year and so on, and some worked, some didn't, you know, but then I realized the best time to do them and found out after experimenting, pretty much 100% success rate now, pretty much. Late August, air layer. By December, you can take it off. It's full of roots. So very easy. If you ever want to air layer Shimpaku junipers, make sure it's a nice, healthy piece of material. So I'll just show you this tree. I'm not going to do anything with this tree, but I'll just show you. This is reasonable sized stock already. Okay, this is an air layer off one of the mother trees that I had. So the two, I've still got the two trees from 15 years ago plus, right? Still growing, and they're still putting out shoots. But I'm air layering all the time, and they're still putting out shoots. So I just keep taking them, and this is like the next generation. So this is an air layer off those old trees to become the next generation of air layers as I keep developing it. Oh, I probably air layered it 5 years ago, and it was probably this kind of size, probably 5 years. Yeah, you just let it go and just feed it, lots of sun, and I'll talk about all those little things. But this will be, maybe in a couple of years I'll start air layering stuff off this. And there's two ways to do it. You can leave it straight. You can have these straight branches, no problem. Put an air layer here. That will take no problem. Air layering is very easy. It takes about 5 minutes to put an air layer on. And I don't even use rooting hormone. I just ring bark it. It's on my channel. There's 600 videos on my YouTube channel. Just type air layering junipers and you'll find heaps of videos on it. Air layer. There's 4 trees. And this will keep shooting. And leave it alone for another couple of years. Keeps propagating. And that's how I started growing the stock that I wanted to work with. And I wanted to work with Shimpaku, but not pay for a little seedling like $20 for a little cutting. You know, it's not worth it. You know. So that's how I started to propagate. And I found that it was very easy to propagate. Propagate material, very, very easy with doing that. I have, you know what, cuttings are like, people think cuttings are, you know what, hard. I don't know if they're hard or not, but I'm kind of lazy. I'll just say I'm lazy. So anything I cut off, like if I cut stuff off tonight, I'll go find a pot, soil in it, plunk them in, put them in a shady spot, forget about it for 6 months, come back, oh, which ones have grown? Pretty much 90% have just taken. You know, if you want to fuss and put a greenhouse, you'll have 100% success rate. But if you're lazy like me, put them in a pot and put them as long as it's shady, don't put them in the sun. I find. If you put them in the sun, they'll cook and they'll burn. But in a nice shady spot, they'll just grow. Especially this kind of weather. It's very cool. There'll be no problems. I know it sounds very lazy, and that's what I found. But it works. It works. It really does work. So what else can I say? I love the foliage. Shimpaku foliage, if you have a feel of it, it's so soft and so compact. You can get really nice compact growth. So this is showing you how much compact growth you can get in clouds and building trees. Really nice compact. If it was a prostrata or procumbens, they can get like random growth, like some bits are really out and die back at the base and stuff like that. You don't really get that with these guys. They're really nice and soft. Yeah, and that's true. Some juvenile, some. These can do juvenile, and I'll show you what happens when you can have juvenile growth, and I'll talk about that as well. The flexibility in the branches is the other thing I love. But all junipers have flexibility, really. Pines, junipers, very flexible. But Shimpaku is another good reason why I like them. Soft foliage, very easy to bend and manipulate into small trees, which I like. But also very disease resistant. I don't find there's too many diseases they get or any attacks. The only thing I find sometimes might get spider mite if it's in a shady spot and too wet and too damp. You'll get an infestation. Very easy to treat. Or sometimes there's a very small white aphid that comes on a very tiny, but easily, you just deal with them very easily. But they don't get that dieback, the tip and then the whole branch dies. You don't get any of that. The only sometimes you can get juvenile growth. So you know how this nice soft foliage is beautiful? You can get it, and it's a little bit on this tree here. You have a close look later. There's a little bit here of juvenile growth there. It's very coarse and very ugly. It's because it's stressed. For some reason got stressed. Now that tree got stressed, and that's why I brought it here, because in summer I missed the watering. I just one watering and I missed it, and it was a bit dry. Like, oh shit, better water this, get it soaked, and then it threw juvenile growth on the lower branch. But that's it. If you're not going to water your trees, you're going to have the problems. But if you keep watering it, not a problem. These guys also found love sun, love water, love food. More sun, the better. Like Han, you guys know Han, but like Bonsai, these are on his roof, on his shed. So much. I wish I had that space, to get so much sun. Well, I've only got a courtyard, so it's really hard to grow quick stock and grow quickly without the sun and the room. If I had the space, I would have grow beds everywhere and put these in the ground in grow beds. If you got the space, and full sun, love it. Full. They don't mind being wet as well. Like you don't have to. You can overwater without a problem. Just don't let them dry out. Like every tree, don't let them dry out. Okay, very important. Oh, a lot of talking. All right, that's really it. So probably the last thing that's a bad point about them is they can be bloody expensive because they're hard to find. Maybe a bit less now. But I have seen stuff in some of the nurseries, Trisha, thousands of dollars for stock. Thousands for stock. So thousands, that's a lot of money for just stock. It's not even a finished tree. So that kind of tells you how good this material is. That's what I think anyway. Pines as well. Pines in nurseries are very expensive too. But yeah, Shimpakus can be pricey as well. But let's start with what I'm going to do today. All right. Now, over the years, you learn so many different techniques. You take bits and pieces from everyone and you start to put them together. I'm very lucky. I've got, at Bonsai Northwest, we've got Quentin there, we've got Han, we've got quite a few, experienced people that you learn off. And you learn bits and pieces of everyone, and you bring them all together and you start to do things. But then I found YouTube was fantastic. About 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I loved it. Just, YouTube had so many different people on there showing stuff, showing trees. Bjorn, obviously you guys know who Bjorn Holm is. He's one of my favorites. Watched everything he did. There's so many different artists out there. And so we brought Bjorn out in 2015 to Northwest. And it's probably that moment when I brought him out and I spent a week with him, just taking him around, doing demo. Just the different level. It was just spending a whole week with him. Just like you guys are going to have hero. Whoever's going to take him around is going to be, the luckiest person around because you're going to see everything done. He's going to do all this stuff and you're going to see it firsthand. So that's what happened with me. I took Bjorn around and it's like, oh shit, I better get serious about this stuff because if you want to get to that level, you have to really make a huge step to get to that kind of level. And so you start to take more knowledge in, but you really need to practice. You need to actually do the work, work on trees, try different things, try, experiment, so on. And you get better. We brought him back out in 2018 as well, for the convention that was. We brought him in 2015 just for a tour. And it was brilliant. And then I started my YouTube channel because he goes, David, just do something because there's nothing in Australia. There's not really many Australia-specific channels giving you Australian conditions. I know you don't do natives, but that's fine. Just people just want to know what it's like in Melbourne. How do you work? Melbourne conditions are very different to the US and other places. You can pretty much do anything in Melbourne. Just the trees are happy. Even winter's not that cold. You can get away with doing a lot of things to trees throughout the year. So that's how my YouTube channel started. It was a lot of fun. And then it just started growing and it was really good. Now I'm doing, work all over the place. I'm part of I'm a visiting tutor, as they call them, on the AABC tour as well. So that's been fun. I've got a couple of trips to Perth, to Brisbane and things like that, doing workshops. So it's a bit of fun there too. But it comes back to what I like doing. So what I like doing is showing you different stuff, different techniques. I don't like doing the standard approach to things sometimes. I like to try and do different things. Might work. I might snap the whole tree tonight, but I don't know. I've got to try it. So we'll see how we go with it. Okay. So for me, I wanted to also create interesting things. So I'm going to start with this guy. Now, one thing in demos, I was telling Stuart, I don't do wiring in demos because if I sit here wiring a whole tree, you'll be all asleep. Okay. I love wiring, but you don't want to watch me wire. Okay. So I'm only going to apply one wire to one tree. That's all I'm going to do. Promise you. I hopefully promise you. I don't know how the others will go, but promise you I'm just going to do one bit of wire on one tree. And I want to show you why. So I've got this tree. I've already put one wire on there. And there you can see the thickness of this wire. It's pretty much a 5mm aluminium on a trunk that's probably the same thickness. Okay. Now, that's not what we taught, are we? We're not really taught that. Usually it's like a third or half the thickness of the branch is the wire. And my coil spaces are quite tight. I'd say at about 30 degrees rather than 45 degrees. So a little bit different again. Okay. Now, I'll explain what I'm going to do with that, but I need to wire this branch as well. Because is this a nice bonsai if you leave it like that? Not really. It's two sticks. It's two sticks, right? Really, there's nothing to it. You can't really, that's not a bonsai, right? You put it in a bonsai pot. Is it really a bonsai? Is it a really old tree in a pot? Is it really telling you how old I am? It's just a young piece of material, right? Very young, nothing interesting, nothing exciting. So I'm just going to and it's very topsy. All right. So I'm going to put a bit of wire on this. Now I'll explain why I'm using such a heavy gauge wire and why I'm doing the coil so tightly spaced. It's a technique actually I learnt from Han, in a Han Balak bonsai. He does it on pines. And I said, if you can do it on pines, why can't I do it on junipers? And then I started to. And you can be quite rough. You can be quite rough with these guys. So, except when you do that. Sometimes I've got to hold it in between my legs. Sorry, this looks terrible. But I don't have a clamp to clamp it down, so I'm just going to do this for a bit. Oh, this looks terrible. Oh, I'm hiding, aren't I? Oh no, don't show me. Yes, I will. I'll do bits of this on my channel, but so it's easier when I'm doing that. Nah, it's okay. It's a bit of fun showing you this. Now, who's tried this before? Has anyone tried this technique? Oh, Dean, of course. Dean follows. Dean knows how to do Shimpakus. So this is a cool technique if you want to create interesting material. And it's good to use a roll of wire. Just it's easier to use and turn it around. Like you can use the whole 1 kilo one to do this work. If you cut the wire, measure and cut it, I guarantee if you're going to do this, you're going to end up short. It would just be short because this technique is doing a tighter angle. It's a 30-degree angle rather than a 45-degree angle. Now, I don't do this to every tree. It's only these kind of trees I do. If I'm doing a beautiful tree like this or that, go back to copper wire, go back to proper spacing, and, that kind of stuff. More the traditional wiring and traditional way because it's much easier to place. I'm not going to manipulate massive bends in these trees. It's only slight little bends here and there, okay? See how boring wiring is? You're bored, right? So you're ready, you're bored. No one's asleep yet, Quentin, are you? No, Quentin's not. He's all right. Well, that's why I love wiring personally. Like, I can sit there and wire for hours. It's not a problem. That's a lot of fine wiring. Yeah. Now, I'm not fussed about all this foliage that I'm knocking off because this tree is super healthy. Now, I wouldn't do this on a weak tree. Okay, you don't do this kind of work on sick trees, weak-looking trees. They've got to be healthy, got to be strong. This is pretty healthy, except for not much branching down here, but it's all up here. You can see how healthy it is. It's grown. It's got the dark tinge to it. It's not that light tinge. It's nice and strong and robust. So any stressful work you're going to do on a tree, make sure the tree's healthy. Doesn't matter, I found. Doesn't even matter. I don't know about that one. That's a good question. I've tried to figure that one out. They still bend, no matter what. So either when it's wet, dry, it doesn't matter. The only time I don't do this work is in spring. Because spring, the trees are pushing so much energy. I don't know how to explain this horticulturally, but the roots are feeding the tree excessively. The cambium's full of fluid, or what do you call it? Yes, it's full of that, right? And if you try and do this, I've had that before. Like, it'll crack, and the cambium will start to part away quite easily. Like, it just peels off. It's not good. So spring, I pretty much avoid any of this work. It's the only time I don't do it. Anytime from pretty much late summer, I start to do this kind of work till now, till spring. So you've got a huge period of time to do crazy stuff to these guys. Even trimming them, I don't even touch them. I ignore them all spring and into summer. I just ignore them. They're going to push growth. They're going to push out things. And then come end of summer, I start to look at them and then get them ready for the show, which our show is usually in autumn. So it's perfect time. So, that's probably what I do. And then I can work on them. I'm still doing a bit of work on my Shimpakus now to get them looking right. But it's a good time to do it. I'm just going to do this again.
Do they like hot or just the same?
They like hot and lots of water. If you give them lots of water in hot conditions, they'll explode. So, all right, that was almost just the amount of wire. So, what are we going to do now? Okay, the reason I put such a heavy gauge wire on it and so nicely, so tightly coiled, is it acts like raffia without having to apply raffia. Now, if I had to apply raffia to these branches, it'll be at least half an hour to do it. It takes a while. Apply the raffia all the way up, and then got to put the wire on, and then we've got to bend it, and then we've got to take all the wire off, take all the raffia off. Oh, too much work. Lazy. Remember, I'm lazy. So I'm finding every single way to make my life easier. Now, what I'm really going to do is this is boring. This is uninteresting. It's 2 sticks. What can we really do? They're about the same thickness apart. Let's be creative and try and do some stuff to it. Now, I've done the wire in this direction. Okay? In this direction. So I'm going to bend the trees in this direction. Don't bend them that way. It just won't work. Okay? So just think about when you're wiring, the direction of the wire is the way you're going to bend the tree. So I'm going to try and figure out, it's got a nice little base on there. It's got a split. I'm just going to be trying to see what I can do with them. Okay? I don't really even have anything in mind just yet. I just want to see what we can do. So if I pick, for example, let's just pick this as a front to start with. I'm just going to pick that as a front to start. I've got to look at it. But if I go backwards and then try and bring the tree back round, There's nothing. Can you hear? Hasn't been a crack. That's why it's so quiet. Could you hear a crack? You could? No, there's no cracks. Come and look.
Did you twist it as you go so you get the framework actually working around the axis of the trunk?
So
So when you're doing your sharis and things,
yeah.
It's actually twisted all.
Okay, I know what you mean. No, I don't really think about that actually. I'm just trying to work with what I've got. So I've just tried to create something much more tighter and interesting. So I've just done that, just to start. Okay, from a tall, ugly thing, not one crack. Not one crack. Now, what are we going to do this bit? So I've kind of got like a little semi-cascadey branch, kind of something like that. You know, it's a bit messy, but it's at least something like that. Now, the way I shortened it so much is I went backwards. Can you see this bit coming out the back? Because once you go back and bring it back around, you shorten a branch considerably, okay? So I'm going to probably, if that's there, oh no, I'm pretty vicious, aren't I? Is it pretty crazy? Or are you guys like, what are you doing? And no? Is it okay? You guys can... Let's see if I can get this around. Now, after a while, what happens is the tree grows lots and lots. Okay, lots of foliage, lots of growth. And a lot of these twists and bends that are looking a bit crazy get covered with foliage. You don't really see them, like you can't really see what's happening too much in here and in here, but it could be all coiled around to create a top. Okay? So that's what I'm trying to do here today. I'll go to the next steps in a minute, but no. So sometimes it depends on how strong the tree recovers. Now sometimes they're really strong and they power on. 6 months later, I'm digging out, wire. But usually it's a year to two. Usually, because these are quite stressful. Do it. No, with this material, just do it. Sorry? Well, I've just learned that these guys can take a lot. They can take a beating, Oh, there you go. Dean said it, I didn't say it. Yeah, it's also, yeah. So now, it's the beginnings of like a little semi-cascade. From two ugly sticks going up, it's like a little semi-cascade. It looks a mess right now, but you can see the apex eventually in the future. You can see the little apex. You can see the lower branch, little top, little apex. Very easy. That wasn't long, was it? How long did that take? I was talking most of the time. 5 to 10 minutes if you do that. You're setting this tree up. And now this goes back in the garden. Water, feed, sun, 6 months, a year. Don't think about it. Okay, that's probably the most important thing. Just don't think about there's a tree that I have to look at every single day and worry about it. No, move on to the next thing. That needs 6 months to a year to develop into something else. And then we come around to the next stage. Now, it depends how big I want to grow the tree. You're right. If I want to grow a really thick trunk, yes, I'll leave some sacrifice. But these guys, I like minis now these days. They're a lot of fun. And you can develop a tree really quickly. I didn't bring got some other smaller stuff, but I don't know how much I can bring here. So I just thought I'd bring this stuff. But, I really like the minis. Like, it's easy to walk in with this, it's very easy. Or, I don't want to bring in Quentin's raft. English elm takes up this whole table. It's like, I love to look at it, but I can't carry that anymore. But yeah, sacrifice branches when I want to grow something a bit bigger. Now, what happens? That's left alone. 6 months, a year, maybe 2 years if I forget about it. It will just fatten up. The wire will cut in. Some branches will die. Maybe because I bent it too hard. Maybe. Very rarely. But what's usually going to happen is a lot of the branches grow really wild and start to go a bit crazy all over the place. Now this is probably I did this, I think, I don't know if it was a Northwest show, but I did something similar, right? You can see that that's starting to go similar kind of tree, maybe going the other way. The apex has gone a bit crazy, but I'm finding the wire hasn't started to cut in that much. I want to see the branch cutting into the wire a bit before I even take anything off, because it's not going to hold. If I take this off, it's just going to spring back. By having the wire cutting just a little bit, you know it's held, okay? And then I'll consider taking the wire off. So this tree, leave it alone for a bit. Don't stress about it. Just leave it for the next stage. Maybe 6 months' time, I'll have a look at it. Maybe in summer, I'll have a look again, how that's gone, feed it, water it over spring, that kind of stuff. All right, which one are we going to do now? All right. So this one's starting to come up a little bit better. So this one's starting to have some more work to it. The wire's slowly cutting in. So if you're going to come up, have a look closer, you can see the wire just starting to cut in here. Not too stressed about it. Let it go a bit more. But what I like to do now is actually try and start to refine it a bit more. Okay, so you can see it's quite an interesting shape. I'm not 100% sure about this lower branch, at the moment, but I'm going to leave it for now. Now, I did do some pre-wiring because I don't want to wire this strip. Imagine I wired all the little branches now. Just too boring, right? So all I'm going to do is just show you the next level of this is to get all the other branches now starting to put them in place and see if you can see a nice little tree. So by putting a bit of wire on it, you can sorry, I've got to bend down to see it. So just put wire on it onto smaller branches and see if you can actually come up with, hey, is this branch going to be any good? Is this branch going to be good to keep? So the cascade branch is looking okay, right? So by wiring it out, you've got a nice fan shape. It's a bit flat still. You want to get more fuller foliage. Just got to grow it on a bit more, okay? Now I'm just going to try and put the apex in place. And we'll see if the tree looks good. I think it'll look all right. I think it's going to come up okay. But it's that next level of refinement. That's what I want to really talk about. So you're doing this initial work. In 2 years' time, you can do this work. Does that sound bad? Like you got to wait years? It's not waiting years, but if you're doing 10, 20 of these, it's not too bad, right? You're like, yeah, you got a bit of a progression. Yes, we know. So, because I've wired everything, I just have to position it now for. I think this will come up like a nice little tree. I could do a bit of wire, a bit more wire there, but I'll just put them in there. Yeah, so this is actually looking okay. So it's a little bit better. Just by putting a bit of wire, you're starting to see something a bit more refined, a bit more development. Now with this tree, you start to do a bit more work to it. You don't leave it for a year. You probably check in on it, in the summer. Let's do a bit more work, clean it up, clean the pads. We'll talk about that as well. You clean up underneath growth, clean up stuff like that. But, this tree's going to be actually quite all right. Get this branch back here. Might have to trim that one off. But you can see the makings of it, right? You see the apex and you can see the lower cascade branch. Yeah, it's not too bad, right? Probably not even. But that's nice. That's going to be a nice little tree now. So it's pretty good. Is that okay with everyone? Everyone's pretty straightforward. All right, so we do, remember, air layering off. The other thing I forgot to mention, once you air layer, I don't touch it for 6 months at least. Let the tree establish the roots. Because once you air layer, you've got a ball of sphagnum moss full of roots. Bang in the soil, bang in a pot. Don't touch it for 6 months. A year, if you can resist, a year's really good. Year and a half even better, because that's usually the next summer into autumn, so it's a good time. Then you can start manipulating, okay? So air layering, then do an initial style, have a look at it. Is it ready for any work? It is. Let's do some work, get looking a bit better. Maybe from air layer to there, 2 to 3 years. Okay, it's not too much if you've got about 50 of them. Okay, so now I'm getting to this one. Now this has had a bit more work. It's starting to look okay. It's a lot on that position, but I'm finding something. I'll look at it and I go, it's just not the nicest tree, in my opinion. It needs some work, needs some help. I've got these really, kooky little branches twisting up, which is okay, but doesn't look good as a cascade. The apex part is quite nice. It's got a nice gin here. This is looking all right. So I have done some pre-wiring. I'm just going to see if this all looks okay. We'll see what it looks like. I have an idea of what I want to do, so we'll see what we come up with.
Some of the branches sort of look a bit bare at the start, but you get the movement.
Yeah, but so I'm thinking what also is really good with junipers. Okay, I'm going to ask a question, so who knows the answer. Ready? On junipers, what's one thing that makes them look really old? When you look at old junipers, what's a common trait they all have pretty much? Shari, gins. Shari and gins are probably that make the oldest. You get the correct. They all got shari and gins. So shari is just deadwood, and gins are shari is deadwood along the trunk. The nice look, or gins are just the branches that are ginned off. See these little gins that I've created. So with this tree, I'm finding I can create something a bit more interesting if I gin all this. I'm not going to keep the whole length, but if I can maybe carry a nice little gin in here. And it's got all these twisty branches. So maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Let's give it a go. What do you reckon? Okay? I'm just going to ring bark. I'm just going to put my scissors through around here so I don't... What I'm doing is cutting through the cambium, making a circle almost, so I don't go back too far on the main trunk. So this is the fun bit. Now, all these I'm cutting off. I'll just go and put in some soil. All right. But I reckon, is that a nicer tree? You can see a nicer tree now, right? And if I had a little gin in here, it might actually look all right. So let's see how we go. Yeah, just sometimes at this time of year, the cambium doesn't want to come off because it's gone dormant a bit. So it's a bit tighter, a bit harder to get the cambium off the tree, but it shouldn't be a problem. Let's see. Yeah, as I thought, it's a bit harder to get the cambium off this time of year because the sap isn't flowing as well. So usually when I do this, maybe in autumn, it's still going, so it's a bit easier to get the cambium off. I'm squeezing, sorry, with these gin pliers or pliers, I'm squeezing the bark, and what happens is the cambium just fishes off usually, just breaks off, and you're left with the hardwood on the inside. Okay, the hardwood is what you want. You don't want the cambium on the outside. But as I was saying, it's really hard at this time of year because there's not much flow of sap, so the cambium is really tough, I guess, and really tight to the wood, so it's really hard to get it off, but you can get it off. Just takes a bit longer. When the sap's flowing a bit better, I find it just peels off, like it just falls off. As soon as you squeeze it, I'm squeezing and I'm like squashing the cambium. I don't know how many mils. It's tiny. It's not very thick. It's easy to get. Yeah, it's like paper. Good point. Paper thin. It's not very thick at all. But it's much easier to get off when it's flowing, when the sap's flowing. Now it's peeling off a bit better. Now just let me set some of these branches. I think it's a much more interesting tree now. Anyway, think it's a much more interesting tree. It looks a bit older, still a mini, but without all those crazy branches, like it wasn't really looking good, right? But now having a gin here, I don't know how big it'll be. I've just left it there, but at least we can work with this. It looks nice and cute. It can be a nice little tiny mini in your hand again. You know, that's all right, isn't it? That's probably the same level as this, maybe 3 years in after ELA. So it isn't too bad, right? Okay. Any questions on these so far? On the process? So that has been wired. So I have wired them. Now, you can also wire them after you've ginned them. So that also works. So as soon as I've ginned, if this was a straight branch and I took all the bark off, I can actually wire it and it'll sit in that position because there's still enough water in it, I guess, before it loses all that water and hardens off. So that's another way to do it as well. I prefer to bend them before I prefer to bend them and then gin them rather than gin them and then bend them. Is it everyone got that? Yep. So wire them first is better, but sometimes you can't win. Sometimes you just can't. Sometimes you have to gin it and it's gone. Yeah, well that's another technique. Jared's done that technique before. Jared's done on a big juniper. Yeah. All right, so this is a little guy here that's actually got some gin. It's probably a year on from these. It was only ever a little tree, but it's got some nice gin. It's starting to develop quite nice, this one. It's got a nice, interesting, twisty trunk. It's kind of cool. It's had, if you come have a closer look, you'll see that the wire previously has cut in. Okay, this is a new wire I have had to apply. So, sometimes you can get rid of the wire and then you have to go, I've got to put some more on. That could happen too. So this guy is I like it. It's pretty cute. It's pretty nice, little small tree. I'm just trying to get it now to the next level of, hey, I like this tree. It could be ready for a pot next year. It could be. That's where I'm at. Let me just put these branches in position and see if, again, I've pre-wired, so you guys don't have to watch me wire. Let's see if this has a possibility to be in a pot next year. Because I'm not going to grow it into a monster tree, am I? I'm not going to grow it into, a side tree this size. I'm growing into trees this size. So it's kind of ready. It's all about the trunks and the branches. Are they developed well enough? Are they developed long enough? Is the foliage ready to go? So I guess it depends. If I'm going to have to put a big bend in it, then I go the other way. But if I'm just enhancing that same bend, I wire it in the same direction, but I go in between the wire cuts, yeah? Then it should be fine. If I wanted to do big bends, I'd have to go opposite because I'd snap the branch. If you go the same way, bang, it'll just snap. But if you're doing light bends, then is that okay to everyone? Does that make sense? So the wire will cut in this way. If I want to do massive bends, I have to wire it this way, the other way. You think that, right? But you try it out. It seems fine. It kind of holds that brace. It kind of holds. So if the wire was cutting this way and then you wire, it goes, so the wire cuts this way, but then you put the wire this way across it. For some reason, that just anchors it. I don't know how, it works really well, but someone tell me scientifically how that works, but it does work. So if the wires cuts are like this, and you wire it across the cuts, it just holds. I don't know a good reason. Does anyone know a good reason why that happens? It works. Yeah, probably just good contact. Maybe I got lucky. But what I'm saying is sometimes what I'm saying is if the branch is going this way, and I go, it's cut in, the wire's cut in, I don't like it that way, I'm going to bend it back around this way, it's fine. But if I'm going to go this way and I'm going to keep going this way, then I'll wire in the same direction. Sorry, I should have said that. Wire in the same direction. Yeah, or you can do that too.
What I was going to say too, do you find that leaving more foliage underneath helps them mature more without going and cleaning up the foliage, which is more for... In development, the more foliage, the better. Yeah.
If you're developing branches, grow thick in them, keep heaps of foliage on. Heaps. as much foliage as you can, because that's the juniper's strength is their foliage. They need the sun to feed this. To more of this, the more energy is produced. The more the roots feed the tree. It's just common sense, I guess. The more foliage, this thing, if I don't touch it, any of this foliage, next year will be double, I reckon, with the sun, the water to feed, because it's got so much foliage. You know, something a bit more small like this, you're not going to see massive growth because it hasn't got that much foliage. It'll grow just a little bit. Okay, so it depends how much foliage you got on the tree. They will explode. So this guy, it's more of a. I'm just seeing if it's going to be a nice little tree. Just, is it ready?
By pinching and growing to the sun too, are you going to actually get more growth back inside the tree?
So
by not letting it elongate too much.
Yeah, so I'll talk about that in a sec, because I want to talk about also the term pinching. It's kind of used. Yeah, they say we don't pinch anymore. That's what I was going to say. It's different. Since you brought it up, I'll explain pinching in a minute. I prefer to cut. I'll explain what I mean by cut. So on this little guy, we used to be taught, pinch, do this. Right? How many wounds am I making on a tree if I do that? And how much brown, every time I pinch, I'm making a wound. That wound has to heal. That's 100, let's say I've done 100 times. And if I come in and go, okay, back to the branch bit, and just cut that branch off. I have to come to it like that. But just cut that once at the branch bit. That's only one cut that's got to heal. Not 10 to 20 cuts that have to heal. Okay, it's just the health of the tree. That's why we don't pinch. And it's a clean cut. Yeah, so I do anything underneath, I pinch, but it's not really pinching. I'm plucking the whole branch off. So I'm plucking the whole branch off. It's very different to pinch. So if you see me doing this, I do this all the time, I'm plucking the whole branch off. So I want to have a nice clean thing underneath. I want to have nice clean pads. So by doing this underneath, I can show you on the white thing. That looks good, actually. I want to do that. I'm pinching anything growing down, okay? Now, the reason I do that is you don't want anything underneath. You don't want any growth going downwards. Downward growth makes the tree look young, yeah? Just makes the tree look young. So the more you want growth that's sitting up, sideways growth or above growth, especially on junipers. So already by just cleaning up this, you should be able to see. I'll do a bit of cleaning up. You know, this is starting to form a nice little pad. Just starting to form a nice pad. And as I said before, come in and anything that's growing out too far, I can't do it like this. It's very hard to do it like that. You just cut it once and you cut that one branch off, not go pinch. It's it just works. It works. And you have less browning. You only have one brown bit. And so this tree is coming along quite nicely. As I'm doing this, any questions as I go, because it's easier to answer questions. Who's got Shimpakus at home? Yes, you all do now? Yeah, it's more common now. It's good. Yeah, I'll talk. That's my what do you call it? Either grand finale, that's the word. My grand finale. So I just want to get this right, and you can see how nice a little tree will look.
I want to jump up and ask a question on it because I've got a trunk at home that's dead straight. It's probably half as thick again as that.
We'll have a chat. So I like the way this tree's going. So I think with a bit more cleaning up, that could be a nice little pot. It's got nice movement. It's got nice movement in here, around there. Twist it up, little apex. I can start developing this in a bonsai pot now. Okay, this is probably 4 years later, okay? Does that make sense? So I like the look of it. I don't want to thicken it up. It's good to go. Clean it up in a bonsai pot. Going good. Okay? All right.
When you start to take it from the nursery pot to the bonsai pot, do you actually go side by side, so you're actually not just taking it straight down to the smallest, you go
Um,
like medium and then the next one that
big,
actually can show it?
yeah, good point. I'd like to say I do size by size, but I'm finding they're pretty, if it's healthy, if it's not a sick tree, if it's healthy and you're doing lots of good stuff for that year, then winter comes and into spring, bang, just take it out of the soil. I wash all the old soil off, which is fine for junipers. Don't do it to pines, but fine to wash the old soil off these guys. So usually, maples you can do that, wash all the old soil off, just have pure roots, works. I found with Shimpaku, same thing. You can pretty much wash the soil off and it'll do really well. And you'll see the nice healthy roots on it. It looks fantastic, nice red, looks really good. And I just go for it. And then don't go too crazy on the roots. Don't go, chop half of them off. Maybe chop a third and they should fit in the pot. The next following year, you can probably reduce it a bit more and then it's used to being in a pot. Okay? They're pretty resilient. You don't have to, to lose one of these guys, you would have to not water it or take too much foliage off. Sometimes you can take way too much foliage off and kill it. Okay, I'm very slow. Like I hardly took anything off these trees. I explained this one. I didn't water it and it threw juvenile foliage. Just wanted to show you here. Now with this tree, it's a nice older tree. It's more traditional looking. Yeah, it's got a more traditional look, which I like. I'm not saying I like them. I've got bigger versions about this size. Very traditional looking, but they're beautiful. They're nice and make the foliage pads and so on. I like the rounded top. You'll notice my trees have very rounded tops. I try and go the rounded top. Looks older to me. You don't see, this is a bit too pointy for me. I've got to get it more rounder. I just want to get it a bit more rounder. But this is beautiful roundness, beautiful roundness. Go out and look at the big old trees. They're all rounded. Except if you've got gins and, all that kind of stuff. But they're really rounded. Like, have a look at Quintons and Bryans, pines. They're just beautiful rounded tops. Fantastic. So that's why these guys are nice and rounded. With these guys, all it is when they're at this stage is obviously feeding, watering, repotting every couple of years. I don't do it every year, maybe every couple of years, second, third year, repot them. They don't need too much. They don't grow massively. They don't put huge shoots like that out. They only grow small amounts. And it's very easy to come in with scissors and cut it out. That bit of growth. Remember? So spring, let them do their thing. Let them grow. In summer, they'll keep growing really well in summer. And then by end of summer, autumn, you'll just see the little shoots that are just a bit out of the proportion. You come in and take them off. Come in and take them off. Come in and take them off. What usually happens is a lot of the inner buds grow. And so you get fuller and thicker and nice, more compact trees. That's all you have to do at this stage, which is really fun. It's just, that's a beautiful little tree. Just clean it up. Clean up anything that grows down. Clean up what's crotch growth. You'll hear what crotch growth is. You'll see two branches coming out and there's a little bit of growth in there. Have you seen that before? That's useless. Okay. You got to get rid of that. Okay. Unless you want that to be a branch. If these two branches are really weak or something and you want that to be a new branch, do that. Keep it. But that's crotch growth. So that's a simple little things there with those trees. I like this pot that it's in. Finally found a good pot for it. It's Tracy Francis pot, if you know who Tracy Francis is. Beautiful pot. This isn't the right pot for this tree. I just haven't found the right pot for it just yet. I really like this pot for this tree. It's a beautiful Japanese. I do like the Japanese pot, so this is a Japanese pot. It really suits. It's small enough. It's not too big. It's just about the right size for it. It's got that greyish look. Kind of blends really well with the trunk. Okay. How I would position those in pots. Yeah. Close enough. Sorry, but that's the angle I want it to be. So it might be a little small cascade pot. Either probably a little square one if I can find one. Nice little square one. That wouldn't be more than that thick. Maybe that high. It'll be I like this position. Usually I've put it in the position I like. Because these guys, you can actually take these out and put some soil underneath, change the angle, they'll keep going. Does that make sense? So I could take this out, put some soil underneath, get the angle I want. So this is the angle I kind of wanted. It's got a nice flow. There's no straight bits. So this is kind of a bit of an angle. It's not straight directly, slightly angled. Got the twists, got that. Usually that's what I try and do in the pot because then it's easier. Okay, yep, that's the angle I wanted. You can put a marker, but sometimes you just forget the marker, lose it, and it bends and blows over and so on. But with these guys, they're still in nursery pots, take them out, put some soil in a certain spot, and you get the angle change. that make sense? Is that okay? All right. Yes.
Those trees over there,
Yeah.
how did they start off? Like as Japanese ones and what?
So these are pretty much not nursery grown, but they're growing in the ground for some time, and they've got some movement into them. So putting movement into them, like this, putting movement into them, and growing a bit longer. So that is like 10 to 15 years later than this. You know, that kind of duration. These are like a lot older. You know, a lot older. So similar things. There's no wire marks. There's no nothing, but you can see the nice movement in them. Similar approach. That's what this whole thing is about doing, getting movement into them. Now sometimes, you know, these guys that we did, you know, there might be a lower branch that looks better. You just cut all the others off and that new one becomes your new one, you know, your new tree. Sometimes things like that happen. Yeah? But yeah, if I could grow them in the ground, I'd grow them all in the ground or in a raised bed. I don't know if the ground works the best, but if you've got a raised bed, I reckon that works the best. Yeah, it's a better drainage I found, and they're higher up, so easier to work on them as well. You don't want to work on the ground, it's easier to work on raised beds. So that's what I found too. Someone else had a question? Well, that's a good one, Dean. I don't even fertilise the foliage, so I'm really lazy. That's exactly right. So, yes, junipers, all their strength is their foliage, whereas pines, their strength is their roots. So you don't stuff the roots up on pines, but junipers, more foliage, the healthier the tree. No, I leave it. It will eventually grow out. It just over another. It's almost gone because I just left it, and it's going to grow out. It will just grow. I think you could cut it off if you don't want to. I've got a lot of foliage on this tree. If you've got a bud at the back, yes, but it wouldn't it wouldn't. Usually doesn't buck. Hang on. Usually doesn't back bud on old wood that there's no foliage on. Yeah.
When you have a piece of foliage that long, cut it halfway down, and does it bud in the little areas where the needles are?
I can't say I know 100% that answer. I know that I can get back budding on junipers if I've heavily fed them, given them lots of sun, and then I start cutting it back. I can get back budding. But I don't know that one. I haven't tried it before. I don't know you're saying if there's juvenile foliage, cut it back, do you get back? I don't know the answer because I haven't seen it. I don't know the answer. Anyone know that one? I don't know it either. No, good question. I don't know. Sometimes you don't know them all. You don't know everything.
Why your display trees?
Very, very little bit. Yes, I do. You can see the wire on these. But it's copper. You can't hardly see it. It's like 20 mil, 19, not mil, 20 gauge, 19 gauge. What's? They're wired. They're wired now, and I'll leave it for at least 5 years. They don't actually cut in at all. I just like to have the wire on it so that if it springs back, if I knock it, you can tweak it, and you can't see the wire. If you can't see it from there, they probably can see a guy wire in this tree. There's a guy wire on this tree. Probably can't even see it. It's very small. But it's all fine wiring. It's like 20 gauge aluminium. It's so thin. 20 gauge copper. It's so thin. I would never use aluminium on a display tree because I'd have to use such a thick gauge. So I go to copper. On display trees, I use copper. On these guys, I use aluminium. Cheaper, easier to bend, easier to manipulate. Cool. Any questions? All right. Do we go to the grand finale? All right. I wanted to try something today. Because I've had this tree, and it's extremely boring. Okay, you can see there's this bend in it, and that's about it. There's just this bend and there's folded. Now I have wired it. Okay, now you're probably saying, why you got so much wire on it? It's all 6 mil, 3 times, same thing. If I've got this wire on it, I don't have to use raffia. Okay, who would normally wire? Like if you can bend these you can bend these trunks with raffia, no problem. But I wanted to do it without raffia to see if I can actually do it. I should be able to. Hopefully there's no cracks. But I found this tree. It's got this curve in it. It looks so boring, so uninteresting. I don't know if most people will just look at that curve and go, okay, have that curve, put the branches, there's your tree. Kind of, it's for me, it's not that exciting, not that interesting. I want to see if we can do something else with it. Is everyone okay with that? Did you know why? I find it's like just like a lot of people just went like maybe like that. Let's put these branches down side, and you got a bonsai, which is fine, totally fine. But for me, it's like what else can I do to make this tree interesting? So I want to try and get more movement into it. Now, I was testing it out. And it does seem to want to bend. But I don't know how much I'm going to get tonight into it. But you'll see the flexibility of these guys. Now, what I'm doing is a term Han says as, what is it, the term, Quentin? What's the term Han uses when I'm doing this? Massaging the trunk. You're massaging the trunk. Well, this is not even deadwood. This is just so by me just look how much I'm bending this already, and that's just me just leaning on it. You know, it's not even doing anything, just leaning on it. No, I'll use guy wires. Guy wire. Got a guy wire, so I have to guy wire anyway. All this is doing is protecting the cambium or the trunk from breaking and splitting. All this wire is doing is that for me, okay? But I'm thinking I want to try and I'd love to try and get this around. Let's see if I can get. Yeah? Yeah. Well, I'm just going to try guy wiring. How many guy wires I can use tonight, we'll see. See how I go. No, I've never done it. I'm too scared of doing something like that. I prefer to do this, the try and, sorry? Does work, well, there you go. Now, the other good thing are clamps. Splitting the trunks. All right, let's see if I can do something now. Let's see if the clamp will work. No. I'm going to put some guy wire. Now, I use copper when I want a guy wire. Never use aluminium to guy wire. Why is that? I just snap, right? Aluminium, as soon as you start twisting it, snaps. Copper, incredibly difficult to snap. Now let's see. So I haven't even tried this out. So this is like, I'm going to try this with you guys. Slowly. I think I'm going to break the table more than the tree. I might have to, but just give me a second. Okay. Who's coming? I heard the footsteps. Hold the pot for me. All right. All right, how are we going? Getting there. All right, so the bend's a lot bigger now, right? But what I want to try and do something else. I want to actually try and get this tree around more that way. Okay. Oh, jeez. I didn't know it was going to be so much hard work. So now, I think I have to use another guy wire. Hang on. So you can use as many guy wires as you want, okay? There's no limit. You just keep applying, and usually what happens if you apply another one, this one gets loose and you can take it off. Or sometimes I usually like to leave them just in case, I might break them, but let's see. I'm just going to try something. Let's try that. I've got to put. It's all right. You're free for a bit. I'm trying to get on the existing wire. Usually I'll thread it through, but I don't think I left enough room on this one. So I'm trying to thread it through now. Yeah, I can't get it through, which is what happens when you rush. Now, usually you take your time doing this, of course. I'm just going to turn this around for a sec. But when you've got a demo to do, you don't want people to be bored. Let's have a look. Sorry, just gonna move this one around. Keep going, keep going. Look at that. It's still got flex. I can still do more. And that's crazy, right? Hang on, sorry. Who needs heaters? Oh, yeah, okay, there you go. You can save them for me. Now, this is really loose. You know the other one I put on? It's actually quite loose. I want to see if I can adjust it and tighten it now.
Hold in the tree while you're doing
Oh, that's all right. I got it. Oh. I'm sweating now. Now, these are just techniques I learned over the years watching Quentin do it. And all these guys have all done it before, haven't you guys? Yes, you've done all this stuff before. So you just pick up so many different things and try and apply it to different trees that you're doing. Now that's pretty much almost twisted back all on itself. So it's all come right around into here now. So remember I said, once the tree fills out, you can't even see all the big twists you've done. That's what I'm hoping I can do with this. Because you really don't want to see, you see that turn? Like it's a huge turn. That's how much more can I go? Let's feel. Yeah, a little bit more, I think. Yeah. Yeah, I might do it because the gap was too big before. It should be okay now. Should be all right, Quinn. Should be okay now. I still think it's too big. I don't think I'm going to get it round. I could put wire on it and so on. I'm just too lazy. Yeah, so it's too much. It won't fit. It still won't fit. Yeah, I know, but you know what I've said it. I'm just too lazy. Yeah, it's so bad. I could just do it by my force. Oh, no, that's the wire that's went off. It's okay. Just broke. Oh, the wire broke. Don't worry, that's the other one, so it's okay. That's why I got the backup. All right. So I wanted to show you that just by having the wire, I can actually put big bends in this tree. Now, let me quickly do a kind of maybe what I hope the tree will look like. And let's see how small I can get it. Thank you. Thanks. Now, because I've got big bends, got a huge bendy trunk, do I have straight branches? No, okay. Got to put bends in the branches, right? Yeah, everyone knows that one. And I've already wired everything, so it's just a matter of using my imagination to try and put everything in place. Now, because these branches are so long, I don't want to have them all the way out here. So by twisting them in, I'm shortening them, right? Twist, 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 shorten. And I want to try and get a compact tree as much as possible. Now, I reckon in the future, a lot of these branches might be gins. But for now, I'm just going to put stuff in place and see what happens. See, by twisting back, you shorten. Okay. So who's doing Heroes Workshops? Who got lucky, got one of those? What are you guys taking? Who's taking what? Black pine? Juniper? White pine? Oh, yeah. A few different ones. Oh, that's awesome. Just make him work hard. That's the way. Make him work really hard. That's the trick. Multi-trunk forest. That'd be cool. Oh, that'd be nice. You got a bit of help carrying it around, working on it, or you can do it all yourself? Oh, nice. Do we know what demonstration material he's got, Scott? I mean, Stuart? Oh, very good. Should be a good session. I'm just rushing this for the demonstration's sake, but I wanted to show you quickly something that I like doing. Now, all I've tried to do is make a smaller tree, so it's more compact. See how all this is nice, and that will eventually be wired out, something along the lines of this. You can't really see those massive bends that I put in, can you now? You just see a smaller tree, a bit tighter, a bit smaller, but I've got this. So when you got a tree like this, sometimes I see this, and it frustrates me, because you just went to make a really old tree down here look very young. Okay? Very young. Try and avoid this. Now I've tried to use some of these smaller ones up here. See how I've wired them up and then down? You can have a look later. But I've wired them up and down to try and start to fill in the gaps as I go up. Okay? So now I like to do, you've got to use this one branch to make an apex. So go backwards, make it shorter. So it's shorter already. Then start to bring it back around. I've got to wire all these little ones, but you see what I'm trying to say. It's like I use one branch. I know you can't really tell much, but one branch became an apex. You cannot see that I twisted that around. All you see is some sort of apex. And if I wire all those bits out, I can make a really nice apex. But just simply don't use a stick and then try and grow the branches. It doesn't work. Twist it, to push it down, curl it around, wire it all out. You've got the apex. All it has to do is fit out a little bit. In 1 year, it's ready. If you try to grow that and grow branches each year, that's 10 years later, you still have a straight bit. And the tree's all twisty. They work well with spruce, yeah. All the spruces work. Pines work like that too. I do my pines like that as well. I try and avoid that. Bang, bang, bang. It takes too long. Twist it, curl it, make it tight. Guess what? That rounded apex, you can't see what's in here. If you have a close look, you'll be going, oh, that's all twisted around to make that. Exactly what I'm trying to say. So hopefully you got to see that could be a much more interesting tree now. I mean, it needs a lot of work, but from before being up like this and boring to twisted, more twisted, really trim it up now, get it looking, and no raffia, just wire. You can do raffia. I'm not saying don't. I still raffia, older trees especially. Still the raffia, but this is kind of young still, and I know someone was saying they got some young, thick material that you can do this, no problem. I see Jerry's little Shimpaku and I love it. Where is it? Oh, Jerry, your little Shimpaku. Oh, that's going to be a super tree. He's not. It's going to hero. Oh, good. I can't wait to see the result. But that's a great little tree that he's got there that can be really nice little mini with gins and shari. Going to look awesome. Beautiful material. All right. So really what's left is questions. Other than that, can't help you much more. You got to get stuck into it. Got to get wiring. You got to wire your trees. It's my favourite line. Whenever I do workshops, you got to wire it. Got to wire. Got to wire. Do you like wiring? Yes. Okay, great. You don't like wiring? I don't know. You got to wire. That's probably my tip that I give you everyone. The only thing I don't really wire that much are maples. Once I set the structure on my maples, like the bones on my maples, once you set the structure, clip and grow. Because imagine wiring every single twig in a month, that wire will cut in. It's such a waste of time. That's how I think of it. But if you try to clip and grow, once you get the structure, on maples, like the beautiful natural looking maples, you just do clip and grow and it just gets twiggy and twiggy and twiggy. It looks sensational. But anyway, that's enough for me. But wiring junipers, wiring pines, wiring all conifers, you have to wire. And wire everything. Like, you could probably see, on the little ones, probably see every single branch is almost wide. Okay? Wire everything. Any questions? Yeah, Brian.
What do you use to fertilize?
Because I used to try and use everything. I used to use liquid, everything, you name it. But who can be bothered sometimes? I hate to say that, but it's so much work. I hate to say this. Sorry? I'm so lazy when it comes to, but give me trees to work on. I love it. You know, styling, wiring. It's so much fun, right? But friggin' watering, really? I hate it, but I've got to do it. Fertilizing, I've got to do it as well. I hate it, but I've got to do it. So I'm so lazy. But I found a really good product. I know Quentin uses it. A few of us use it. It's Power Feed have this granule feed now. It's brown. Granule little circles, little circles, right? It's just slow release. It's like osmocote, but you put it on your soil, you can't even see the damn thing. It's so good. Can't see it and just feeds it every 6 weeks or 8 weeks. I change it or just top it up. I think it's on the little ones. Have a look. It's just little Power Feed. I think it's one of the best. I've done it for a year and the trees have exploded. It's more, because it feeds it regularly, I don't have to remember to feed it. Do you know what I mean? And if I forget to feed for 2 months, guess what? The trees look shit. But if that's just feeding it non-stop, and I remember, I just put some more on it after 8 weeks, that's easy. But liquid feed every 2 weeks, oh my God. You know, I try to remember in spring, but you remember the first maybe month, you're doing really well, and then you forget the next month. You go, oh man, I forgot to feed, you know. Who does that? Be honest. You can be honest. It's bloody true, right?
Liquid feed when you're a beginner and you're starting.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, can you be bothered? It's the worst. Brian's probably the only one who does it. But it's reasonable. It's just the surface. I don't know how much is on this one. You'll see it on this one. I've got moss on this one, but you'll be able to see all the little granules on there. Whatever it takes. I don't pile it on, but it's enough to keep the tree happy. But it's really good because I'm lazy. You know, that's all I say. And I love styling, I love trimming, I love wiring, I love creating trees, but the maintenance side of things, it does my head in. Yeah, Dean. Soil mix. So I use my own, I do my own, as you probably know. Pretty much doesn't vary from 20% pine bark nuggets and 80% pumice. Pretty much doesn't vary from that. Last year I increased the amount of pine nuggets because I was finding they dried out too quick because we had a really dry summer once, really dry. Even though I water all the time, no problem. So I increased the pine nugget and the trees still seem very healthy and happy. So that's all good. We have a guy in our club, Damien, who mixes his own soil. It's a really good mix. That's a really good mix. So, you know, that's pretty good too. So for anything that's really open, free draining, just use it. But one thing I have to say, I know some people might not like this, but I know overseas they swear by just non-organic, nothing organic. They swear by it. Doesn't work here. I don't know how to explain. That's my experience. It just does not work here. I've had clients bringing in their trees. They brought in this beautiful maple, big old maple. Didn't push out any growth. He had it in pure, Akadama. Yeah, pure Akadama. Damn thing didn't do anything. Almost died. This big, beautiful white base. I think Quentin saw it at my place. I don't know if you saw that big old maple. I was looking after someone. I put it in my soil and just left it in that soil. Didn't touch it, just water it slowly, and slowly just popped all back open. It just pure non-organic, I don't think works for me. It's got to have some organic content. I just find our conditions, maybe it's our temperatures, our humidity, whatever it is, needs some sort of organic matter. Well, yeah, we get that too. So I think this guy, this client of mine, his trees were suffering. I said, you got to get some organic into it because it's a big open area and it's in Laylaw. I don't know if you know it up a bit northern. So they get probably a bit more open and stuff. I don't know what it is, but I just told him to stop doing that. And any trees I repot for him and they're in my mix, they're fine. But anything he's trying to do, his pines were starting to go yellow too early and just look sickly. And it's like, it just doesn't, I think it doesn't work here. But that's my opinion. You don't have to believe me. Again, this is all my opinion. The best thing about bonsai, it's subjective. It's whatever you imagine. I keep saying this. You could bring, you can have Quentin, Jared, me, Brian up here on stage, same material, and I bet you 4 different trees come out of it. You know, you get it all the time. Do workshops. You get 10 people give you opinions about your tree, right? Every single one's different. So it's what you guys envision, you know. Vision is probably the hardest thing to teach in bonsai. I could teach you to wire, you know, trim, blah, blah, blah. But vision is something you just got to learn over the years. Go out and look at stuff. Look at books, look at trees, look at nature. Get stuff like that.
Interesting. So many photos.
There you go. Online, there's everything everywhere. Anything else? Any questions? All good? Happy? All right. Thanks, Stuart. Thanks, guys.